Ladies and gentlemen, we meet again toward Parashat Balak, who is very, very scared, as he saw in the last week's parasha that Am Yisrael beat the battle and won the battle against Sichon and against Og Melech HaBashan, and they understood that they're next in line. And we have a record of success in our wars, and he was sure that he will just be taken over by Am Yisrael like a piece of cake, as they say, just easily run over. And he didn't know what to do. He was so afraid, he decided to use non-conventional warfare. What's non-conventional warfare? To ask a wizard, to ask a person who has spiritual powers to come and curse Am Yisrael, to try and combat with spiritual powers instead of physical powers. So he brings in Bil'am ben Ba'or, who tries to curse Am Yisrael a few times. And each time he tries to curse, what comes out of his mouth is a beautiful blessing. Happens once, happens twice, happens three times. The third time it happens is the most beautiful blessing. And maybe the most famous pasuk in this beautiful blessing is Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. What does this mean exactly, this pasuk? Ma tovu, how great, how beautiful, mishkenotecha Yisrael, your dwellings, the dwellings of Am Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, your tents and your dwellings. Your tents and your dwellings are so beautiful. What has that got to do with anything? What's going on here? So Rashi takes it in a certain direction. The other commentaries take a certain direction. I want to share with you the direction that is taken in Sefer Dvarim. In Sefer Dvarim, Parashat Ki Tetzeh, when it summarizes the whole issue of Bil'am and Balak, it mentions Vayafoch Hashem Elokecha et haklala livracha. Hakadosh Baruch Hu himself turned the curse to a blessing. And based on that idea, the Talmud in Sanhedrin Kuf Hey says, Amar Yochanan, based on what he blessed us, we understand what he wanted to curse us. So he wanted to curse our tents and our dwellings. What are our tents and our dwellings? Says Rabbi Yochanan, these are our shuls and our schools, our batei knesset and our batei midrash, places where we daven and places where we learn Torah. And that's what he wanted to curse, and that is what he ended up blessing. And in fact, in many Sidurim it says that when you walk into a shul or you walk into a bet midrash, you should say, Ma tovu alecha Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael. A beautiful blessing. What's going on here exactly? Why are the shuls and the schools, the bet midrash, so fundamental and so central, and they are the center of our blessing? So I want to share with you an idea I've seen in the writings of Netivot Shalom. He was a Hasidic master who passed away only 22 years ago. He was the Rebbe of Slonim, Rav Shalom Noach Berezovsky. Beautiful insights he writes in his book Netivot Shalom on Parashat HaShavua, and he has the following insight. He asks this question: what is so special about the shuls and the schools? What is it so fundamental in Jewish? Why is it so fundamental in Jewish? So he explains: a Jew has a blessing. When does he have a blessing? When he's connected to his Judaism. When is a Jew connected to his Judaism? He's connected to his Judaism and to Hashem in two ways: through the mind and through the heart, through the intelligence, the cognitive intelligence, and through his emotional intelligence. There are two ways, and that's why we have tefillin, one on our arm opposite our heart, to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu with our emotional intelligence, and one tefillin is on our head opposite the brain, where we have to connect with our cognitive intelligence. These are the two ways. With Judaism is not just an emotional issue, and it's not just an intellectual issue. It's a combination of something emotional which has an intellectual backing and something intellectual which has an emotional backing. These two go hand in hand. The heart and the brain have to be connected. We need both tefillin shel yad and tefillin shel rosh. We need them both. That is on a private level. But on a national level, we have a place where we study Torah. That is, studying Torah has got to do with our cognitive intelligence. Where is that place? Bet Midrash, our schools, our places where we teach Torah. And where, on a national level, where is the place that we connect with our heart? It's a place where we daven. It's our Batei Knesset on a national level. What connects us to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through our heart is the Beit Knesset. And through our brain is the Batei Midrash, the schools where we learn Torah. And in this way, he actually explains that he gives this terrible person, Bilam, at the end, gives Balak, when he sees he can't curse Am Yisrael, he gives him two suggestions. One is to tempt Am Yisrael to be seduced by the women of Moab, and once they're seduced, to teach them to worship Baal Peor, which is idolatry. And this way, if they're tempted by these beautiful women of Benot Moab, that'll catch their heart. And once their heart is caught, then introduce idolatry ideas into their brain of Baal Peor. And we see towards the end of the parasha that this actually was a terrible trap and actually did work to such an extent that at the end of the day, 24,000 Jewish people were killed based on HaKadosh Baruch Hu getting angry that we actually fell into that trap. We have to be very careful. Our blessing is in our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, through our brain and through our heart. And that's what we teach. In all our 70 yeshivot and Ulpanot Bnei Akiva, all our 25,000 girls and boys, students, we teach them to connect with their hearts and we teach them to connect with their brain. And that's the whole story. We want our children and our students to get a blessing. And the blessing can only come through a full connection of our heart and our brain through our Bet Midrash and through our Batei Knesset. Shabbat Shalom.